The cemetery was silent except for the sound of two people crying, neither aware of the other's presence until their eyes met across a small gravestone. What happened next would change 3 lives forever, in ways none of them could have imagined on that rainy Tuesday afternoon. If this story touches your heart, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more emotional stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Your support helps us continue sharing these powerful moments that connect us all. Eleanor Blackwood stepped out of her Bentley, dismissing her driver with a wave. The rain had finally stopped, but the cemetery grounds remained slick with moisture, the grass glistening under the emerging sunlight. She clutched a bouquet of white lilies, her daughter's favorite, in hands that trembled slightly despite her composed exterior. At 62, Eleanor was one of the wealthiest women in the country. Forbes had her listed at just over $4 billion, a fortune built from the tech company she'd founded in her 20s. Her face occasionally appeared in business magazines, always with the same carefully cultivated expression, confident, unreadable, powerful. Today, that mask had slipped. Today was the anniversary. 15 years since she'd lost Sophia. 15 years of visiting this same spot, alone. Eleanor's heels sank slightly into the soft earth as she made her way down the familiar path. She knew every turn by heart, could walk it blindfolded if needed. The cemetery was exclusive, reserved for those who could afford its exorbitant fees, a place where the elite could grieve in privacy, away from prying eyes and cameras. As she rounded the final bend, Eleanor stopped abruptly. There, kneeling before Sophia's grave, was a man in a gray uniform, one of the cemetery's maintenance workers, with a little girl beside him. Both were crying. Eleanor felt a surge of indignation. This was her private time, her daughter's resting place. What right did this stranger have to be here, bringing his child to intrude on her grief? She was about to call out, to demand an explanation, when she heard the little girl speak. "I'm sorry I never got to meet you, Mommy," the child whispered, placing a crudely made paper flower on the grave. "Daddy says you were beautiful and kind." Eleanor froze, the words hitting her like a physical blow. The man, noticing her presence, stood quickly, pulling the child protectively behind him. His eyes widened in recognition and fear. "Mrs. Blackwood," he said, his voice hoarse. "I'm so sorry. We were just leaving." Eleanor stared at him, really seeing him for the first time. He was perhaps in his late 30s, with dark circles under reddened eyes and work-roughened hands. The little girl peeking out from behind him had Sophia's eyes, the same unusual shade of amber that Eleanor saw in her dreams. "Who are you?" Eleanor asked, her voice barely audible. The man swallowed hard. "My name is Daniel Reyes. I work maintenance here." He hesitated, then added, "I knew your daughter." Eleanor's mind raced. Sophia had been 22 when she died, a car accident after leaving a party Eleanor had begged her not to attend. Their last conversation had been an argument. Eleanor had been too busy with a product launch to drive her daughter home herself. "How?" she demanded. Daniel looked down at the little girl, then back at Eleanor. "We met at the community college. I was taking night classes in engineering while working days. Sophia was volunteering as a tutor." His voice softened. "She never mentioned who her family was. I just knew she was the kindest person I'd ever met." The little girl tugged at his hand. "Daddy, who is this lady?" Daniel knelt down. "This is your grandmother, Lily." Eleanor felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Grandmother? It wasn't possible. She would have known if Sophia had been pregnant. Wouldn't she? But as she looked at the child, really looked, she saw her daughter's features reflected back at her. The same high cheekbones. The same slight dimple in her left cheek when she frowned in confusion. "Sophia was going to tell you," Daniel said quietly. "The night of the accident. She was coming from my place, not a party. She wanted to introduce us, to tell you about the baby." Eleanor's legs gave way, and she sank to her knees on the damp grass, the lilies falling forgotten beside her. 15 years of solitude, of burying herself in work to escape the pain, and all this time there had been a piece of Sophia still in the world. "Why didn't you come to me?" she whispered. Daniel's expression hardened slightly. "I tried. 3 times. Your assistants wouldn't let me past the lobby. The 3rd time, security escorted me out and threatened to call the police." He sighed. "After that, I decided it was better for Lily to grow up without the rejection. I took the job here so she could be close to her mother, in the only way we had left." Eleanor remembered those years after Sophia's death, how she'd shut everyone out, how she'd given orders not to be disturbed except for business emergencies. Had there been messages she never received? Notes that never reached her desk? "How old are you, Lily?" Eleanor asked, her voice trembling. "I'm 14, the girl replied, studying Eleanor with curious eyes. "My birthday was last month." 14. Born 8 months after Sophia's death. A posthumous grandchild Eleanor had never known existed. "She has your determination," Daniel said softly. "And Sophia's heart." Eleanor couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her face, ruining the perfect makeup that was part of her daily armor. For the first time in 15 years, she didn't care how she appeared to others. "We should go," Daniel said, taking Lily's hand. "I'm sorry we intruded on your time with her." "Wait," Eleanor called out as they turned to leave. "Please." They paused, uncertainty written across both their faces. "Would you?" Eleanor struggled to find the words. "Would you tell me about her? About Sophia? About how you met?" Daniel hesitated, then nodded slowly. "There's a bench over there," he said, pointing to a stone seat beneath a maple tree. As they walked toward it, Lily slipped her small hand into Eleanor's. The touch was electric, a connection to Sophia that Eleanor had thought forever lost. "Daddy says I laugh just like her," Lily said matter-of-factly. "He says it makes his heart happy and sad at the same time." Eleanor understood that feeling perfectly. They sat together on the bench, an unlikely trio, the billionaire CEO in her tailored suit, the cemetery janitor in his work clothes, and the child who connected them. As Daniel began to speak, sharing stories of a Sophia that Eleanor had never known, a Sophia who rode the bus and tutored struggling students, who loved street tacos and had strong opinions about comic book movies, Eleanor felt something crack open inside her. For 15 years, she had preserved Sophia in amber, keeping her daughter exactly as she had been. But here was a different Sophia, one who had fallen in love, who had planned for a future, who had created new life. "She was going to finish her degree," Daniel said. "We had it all planned out. I would work while she studied, then she would work while I finished my engineering program. We had a tiny apartment picked out." He smiled sadly. She was so excited about becoming a mother. Eleanor listened, hungry for every detail. "Where do you live now?" she asked. "We have a small place about 20 minutes from here," Daniel replied. "It's not much, but it's home." "And your engineering degree?" Daniel shook his head. "That didn't happen. Being a single dad meant I needed steady work with health insurance. The cemetery job offered both." Eleanor looked at Lily, who was now wandering nearby, examining the intricate carvings on a nearby monument. "She seems wonderful," Eleanor said softly. "She is," Daniel agreed. "She's the best of both of us. Smart like Sophia, stubborn like me." He paused. "She wants to be an engineer. Designs things all the time." Eleanor felt a surge of something she hadn't experienced in years, hope. "I've missed so much," she whispered. "Yes," Daniel said simply. There was no accusation in his voice, just acknowledgement of a truth they both recognized. "I'd like to know her," Eleanor said. "If you'll allow it." Daniel studied her face. Sophia always said you were a good person underneath all the business. That you'd just forgotten how to show it. He sighed. She wanted you in our lives. She believed in second chances. I don't deserve one, Eleanor admitted. Maybe not, Daniel agreed. But Lily deserves to know her grandmother. They sat in silence for a moment, watching as Lily returned to Sophia's grave and carefully rearranged the paper flowers she'd placed there. We usually go for ice cream after we visit, Daniel said finally. It's our tradition. You could join us, if you want. It was such a small invitation, yet to Eleanor, it felt monumental. She thought of the board meeting scheduled for that afternoon, the quarterly reports waiting for her review, the investors expecting her call. For the first time in 15 years, none of it seemed important. I'd like that very much, she said. As they walked together toward the cemetery gates, Eleanor felt Sophia's presence more strongly than she had in years. Not in the cold marble of the headstone, but in the warm hand of the child beside her, in the stories Daniel shared, in the laughter that occasionally broke through their tears. Outside the cemetery, Daniel's old sedan sat parked next to Eleanor's luxury Bentley, two worlds colliding in the most unexpected way. We could take my car, Eleanor offered. Daniel shook his head. Lily's booster seat is in mine. He hesitated. But you could ride with us, if you don't mind a few fast food wrappers and soccer cleats in the back seat. Eleanor smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. I don't mind at all. As they drove away, Eleanor looked back at the cemetery one last time. She would return, of course. She would always come to honor Sophia. But perhaps next time, she wouldn't be alone. And perhaps, just perhaps, she would finally be able to tell her daughter that she was sorry, and that she was trying to be the mother, and now grandmother, that Sophia had always believed she could be. 6 months later, Eleanor sat in the front row of Lily's school auditorium, watching as her granddaughter presented her science project, a sophisticated water filtration system designed for developing countries. Daniel sat beside her, beaming with pride. The past months had been a journey of rediscovery for Eleanor. She had stepped back from day-to-day operations at her company, appointing a CEO she trusted while remaining as board chair. She had purchased a home closer to Daniel and Lily, not too close, she was careful about that, and was slowly building a relationship with both of them. It hadn't been easy. There had been awkward moments, misunderstandings, old wounds that needed addressing. Daniel had been cautious at first, protective of Lily and the life they had built together. Eleanor had needed to learn patience, to understand that trust was earned, not purchased. But watching Lily now, confidently explaining her design to the judges, Eleanor felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in decades. The hole in her heart would never completely heal, Sophia's absence would always be felt, but it no longer consumed her entire being. After the presentation, when Lily won first place, she ran straight to Daniel, throwing her arms around him in celebration. Then, to Eleanor's surprise, she turned and embraced her grandmother too. Did you see? Lily asked excitedly. They said my design could actually help people. I saw, Eleanor said, holding her granddaughter close. Your mother would be so proud of you. Later that evening, as they celebrated with dinner at Lily's favorite restaurant, a casual family place that the old Eleanor would never have entered, Daniel pulled a worn envelope from his pocket. I've been waiting for the right time to give you this, he said, sliding it across the table to Eleanor. Sophia wrote it the week before the accident. It was addressed to you, but... Eleanor understood. After being turned away so many times, Daniel had given up trying to deliver it. With trembling fingers, she opened the envelope, unfolding the pages inside. Sophia's handwriting leapt out at her, familiar and precious. Dear Mom. By the time you read this, you'll have met Daniel and learned about our baby. I hope you're not too angry with me for keeping secrets. I wanted to tell you in person, to see your face when you realized you're going to be a grandmother, **. I know we haven't always understood each other. You wanted to give me the world, and sometimes I just wanted you to be present in mine. But I've never doubted your love, even when it was buried under board meetings and business trips, **. Daniel is a good man, Mom. He doesn't care about money or status. He sees me, really sees me, in a way I've always wanted to be seen. And I know you'll see that too, once you get past the fact that he's not the kind of man you imagined for me, **. I'm excited about this baby. Terrified too, of course. But mostly excited. And I keep thinking about how you did it, built an empire while raising me alone. You're the strongest person I know, and I hope I can be half the mother you were, **. I love you, Mom. And I can't wait for us all to be a family together, **. Love always. Sophia. Eleanor pressed the letter to her heart, tears flowing freely. Across the table, Daniel reached out and squeezed her hand. She never stopped believing in you, he said quietly. Lily, returning from the restroom, looked between them curiously. Are you crying again, Grandma? Dad says you and Mom were both happy criers. Eleanor laughed through her tears. Your dad is right about that. As they finished their meal, making plans for the weekend ahead, Eleanor felt Sophia's presence all around them, in Lily's laugh, in Daniel's quiet strength, in the family they were slowly becoming. Outside the restaurant, as they prepared to part ways for the evening, Lily hugged Eleanor tightly. See you Saturday for the engineering workshop, she asked. I wouldn't miss it, Eleanor promised. Watching them drive away, Eleanor thought about the strange path that had led her here. A chance encounter at a cemetery. A janitor and a billionaire. A second chance she hadn't known to ask for. She thought of all the years she'd spent building walls around her heart, believing that success meant never showing weakness, never needing anyone. How wrong she had been. True wealth, she now understood, wasn't measured in billions. It was measured in moments like these, in family dinners and science projects, in shared grief and newfound joy. As she drove home, Eleanor made a silent promise to Sophia. She would be present in this second chance. She would be the grandmother Sophia had wanted her to be. And perhaps, in loving Lily, she could finally forgive herself for all the moments she'd missed with her daughter. Some wounds never fully heal. Some absences are felt forever. But Eleanor had learned that even in the deepest grief, life finds a way to continue. And sometimes, when you least expect it, it offers you a path back to love. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind us all of the power of forgiveness, second chances, and the unexpected connections that can heal even the deepest wounds. Thank you for watching, and remember, it's never too late to open your heart to the possibility of love.